Hello, I'm Azai. Against my better judgment, I have actually decided to play the prequel to Sharin no Kuni. I'm like, I was thinking like, yeah, might as well just do it right now, right? I mean, I don't see why not. While the story is still fresh in my mind. So I'm like, yeah, I think I could do it within 2 weeks. Finish this and then play rants. I believe in myself. I don't think the story is all that long. At least compared to Sharin no Kuni. So let's go. While Sharin no Kuni, the first game, was about Kenichi, this game's about Hozuki. So we're in the perspective of Hozuki in this one. I didn't want to spoil like whether this was a prequel or a sequel before, because Hozuki was such an asshole, and there was no way that he would be like he would be like the protagonist on the next game. But yeah, here we are. Welcome to Sharin no Kuni, Yukyu no Shounenshoujo, which is, I believe this is this was a long time ago, maybe like 20 years ago. Basically back when Masaomi or Hozuki was still very young, and when he wanted to become a special high-class individual himself. So without further ado, let's start, shall we? Ah, right. There's also like these side stories that you can play. Like basically after stories, after what happened in the game. If you choose any of these heroines, like when you choose Ririko, or when you choose Nachan, Sachi, and Toka. But I don't think I'm gonna do any of them. I don't think I will. I probably will just go with the main story, which is our boy, Hozuki Masaomi. Let's go. I'm not sure if the voice or sound is like too loud. Oh, the text is so slow. I need to change that speed. There we go. Rain beat against the window, accompanied by the roar of the thunder. Accompanied by the roar of thunder. There we go. The scene. Hozuki Masaomi's office, located at the top of the local municipal building. It was just past 1 in the morning. The man himself sat rigidly in his leather chair, finding it unnecessary to flip the lights on. His aged hands held a single letter. He had read the contents of his letter many times already. The words written on the page echoed continually through his mind. The words written on the page drove themselves deeply and painfully into his rusted heart. A guest happened to be paying him a visit at the moment. He had visited at a rather inappropriate time, yet he seemed unaware of his own impropriety. His repulsive wheezes continued unabated. The uninvited guest repeated himself once more. His son had assaulted a woman in his own apartment. Such was the victim's terror and drive to escape that she had ended up falling from the 12th floor window, resulting in her death. The police had discovered stimulants upon his son's person. It was believed that he had been under the influence of them at the time of the crime. Hozuki had received the documentation pertinent to the crime in question, as well as the suspect himself, only 6 hours prior. He was currently preparing for the indictment. The man's gasps grew ever more wild. Arrogant thoughts coursed through the man's head. Everyone in the city knows who I am. I'm the man who founded one of the greatest contractors in the world, Sakuma Construction. Surely you know me too, Mr. Hozuki. After all, you are the current lieutenant governor of our little town. His eyes spoke thus. Thusly, Sakuma Construction had begun in a rural country town. Because they had behaved with restraint during the chaos of the economic bubble, they had been able to make a name for themselves during the crash following this period. While their rivals were struggling merely to stay in the black, Sakuma Construction was growing steadily by taking part in public projects and conspiring with political figures.
首都の鉄人記念碑。あれはうちで請け負うことになったんですよ。
They had risen to the top in the span of one generation. One could say that they had enough power to make pigs fly. As such, even the most prominent and just bureaucrats bowed their heads in acquiescence to Sakuma Construction.
先生、聞いてますよ。
Mr. Sakuma's corpulent lips twisted into a crooked grin.
なんでも先の特別高等人最終試験においてたった一人の合格者もお出しになられなかったと。放送会は混乱しているらしいじゃないですか。何度も最終試験を執り行い、多くの有能な特別高等人を輩出してきたあなたが、鉄人候補とまで言われたあなたが、まさかそんな失態を。
Hozuki remained silent. He didn't move a muscle. The snake had cornered the rat. Sakuma continued with a hiss.
候補生には逃げられたんですか？どうなんです？あの田舎町は私の地元でね。息子がバカな小娘に騙されて一悶着あったことがあるんですよ。いや、懐かしい。今でも地元の住民との交流はありましてね。いろいろと噂は聞いているんですよ。
Sakuma elaborated. He discussed Hozuki's attempt to enact the barbarous punishment known as the death penalty. He discussed the minor uprising the citizens had led. He discussed how Hozuki had suppressed them. And he discussed how Hozuki had let the cadet escape.
森田健一でしたっけ？
Hozuki's narrow eyebrows twitched momentarily.
噂では先生はその森田とかいう男に大層入れ込んでいて、森田が幼少の頃からずっと指導を加えていたのだとか。
He prattled on, drunk on the fact that he held the upper hand. This was not the sort of attitude one would use in a bid to spare one's son from punishment.
そういえば、先生が特別高等人になる際の試験会場もあの田舎町だったそうじゃないですか。若き日のあなたは大層な野心家で、胸の内に大志を抱いていたそうですね。なんでもあの世紀の極悪人樋口三郎とも親交があったとか。
His roundabout words were beginning to come together.
反逆を企ててるのでしょ、先生。
Lightning flashed through the room. Hozuki remained as still as a statue. Hozuki dropped his eyes to his hands and closed once more by darkness.
決まりですね、先生。
Sakuma grinned.
私は何人かの政治家を飼っていてね。皆さん自分のために国家を奉仕させる素敵な政治家です。金と権力と他人の失脚が大好きでして、大月先生のように完璧に仕事をこなされる方は酒の席でいつもやり玉に上がるんです。
Sakuma was issuing a threat. He was offering Hosuke Masaomi the opportunity to become a pig of his own volition.
先生もほおずきの家に入ってまで築き上げた地位をつまらない抽象で失いたくはな。
His voice stopped. His narrow eyes widened and he stared blankly at Hosuke. He let out a groan and took 2 steps back. He was a weak man. He was the kind of conniving, petty man that was so common in this world. He was different from Higuchi Saburo and his son. 3 steps back, 4 steps back. He suddenly came to a halt. His feet were affixed to the floor, as if glued to his own shadow. Why? Simply because Hosuke had opened his mouth. Hosuke's bottomless gaze peered into Mr. Sakuma's very soul.
私はあなた方のような虫けらをひねり潰すのに。
The man felt the frost of Hosuke's voice within his very heart.
何かためらいのような感情を抱くとでも。
And then he cast his gaze to the letter once again. He behaved as if nothing had happened. And in truth, nothing had happened from Hosuke's perspective. A blood-curdling scream resonated throughout the room. A peculiar sour stench permeated the air. The big shot standing before Hosuke had just soiled himself. This was nothing worth paying any particular attention to, of course. Hosuke found himself lost in reminiscence. Long ago, he had once introduced himself as Akutsu Masaomi. Long ago, he had once taken the special high-class individual exam in a peaceful country town. That was where he had met the first man he could call his friend. And that was where they had endured hardships together. His friend was no longer in this world, and his friend's son had already taken his leave from Hosuke's teachings. Their brilliant summer days were long gone. Memories he had once cherished began to shine once more amid the rust of his mind. Please forgive me for coming to adore you. His eyes snapped wide open as soon as he recalled those elegant words. The fleeting dream of his beloved. Hosuke Masaomi could never regain that which he had lost. And he could never escape the crime which he would shoulder for all eternity. Do I click? I think I should click, right? Yeah, I was supposed to click. Sorry. A piercing heat gnawed away at my flesh. I arrived at the training site without incident. Something to be thankful for. However, not a person was in sight. I'm not speaking merely of cadets. Our instructor was not present either. Perhaps I had merely arrived too early. I stole a glance at my watch, then reflected upon my travails up to this point. I had crossed snow-crested mountains with nary a rest. I had been relieved of my equipment in an accident along the way, and I had run out of rations 2 days ago. A number of my fellow cadets had already succumbed to altitude sickness or fallen into ravines. I had been unable to help them. Perhaps this would not have bothered me so much were I not still young enough to consider their deaths as something unjust. There is no sense in dwelling upon the past. I stared off into the distance. I could just make out a small village at the extremities of the field. It was time for a brief respite. I wiped off some sweat, then trudged onward once more. A girl stole upon me with some abruptness. My privacy was being invaded without my consent. She came to a stop in front of me, blocking my path and distracting me from thoughts of her origin. I decided to follow suit. I turned to face her.
邪魔でしたか?
She greeted me with a bow and a smile. Interruption. I questioned her words, forgetting my own introduction.
先を急いでいらっしゃるように見えましたので。
Not particularly. My clothes were quite tattered. I was caked with sweat and dust. Her theory was not a baseless one. You know, I'm actually quite curious what Yukyu no Shounenshoujo means. Because I know that Himawari no Shoujo means like, you know, sunflower girls. Oh, sorry about that. But what about this? What about Yukyu no Shounenshoujo? Youth of Eternity. Very nice name, actually. Alright, let's continue. Sorry about that.
私はサイカミーナと申します。
I'm Akutsu Masaomi.
ありがとうございます。素敵なお名前ですね。
Thanks.
どちらからいらっしゃったんですか?
From outside the state. Are you a resident of this town?
ええ、毎日学園に通っています。この町は空気がきれいで、住民の皆さんは優しくて、とっても住みやすいです。
Sounds great.
お疲れですか?
What?
よろしければ近くの川辺から水でも汲んできましょうか?
What is with this girl? No, thank you. My throat felt as barren as the earth beneath me, but I was hesitant to accept her offer.
誰かを待っているのでしょうか?
Yes, I suppose so. I was waiting for the special high-class individual in charge of the exam.
質問ばかりして申し訳ありません。本当にお邪魔じゃなかったですか?
I don't mind. I began to suspect that this girl was leading me along in some way. Honestly, it was a bit of a novel feeling for me. After all, my position allowed me a degree of control over others.
私はいつも夏になるとこうやって毎朝ひまわり畑に歩いてくるんです。
Are strolls a hobby of yours then?
趣味という言葉はあまり使うことを許されないのですけれど、私の日々の行動を振り返ってみると散歩が多いですね。
Her manner of speaking was exquisitely peaceful, perhaps. Her words flowed at a steady, agreeable pace. Before I knew it, they had overtaken me completely.
夏は大好きです。
She ran her fingers through her windswept bangs. This girl possessed a degree of elegance far beyond the grasp of your average teenager. And when I realized that, I realized my foolishness. The badge on her chest, her strangely polite form of speech, and the way she smiled to allay the fears of others. So, you are a rehabilitee. She offered me nothing more than a nod.
不自由は特にありませんよ。お気になさらずに。
Her smile widened ever further.
いつも笑っているというのは相手にとっても私にとっても気持ちがいいものです。辛いことがあっても寂しい思いをしても笑っていれば自然と素敵な考えが浮かんできて前に進んでいけるのです。とても幸せです。
I stepped toward her. I'm a special high-class individual. I've come to this town for the purpose of my final exam. There's a chance that
もしかすると
I may be assigned as your supervisor. Why had they chosen this remote town as the grounds for the final exam? The town in question had been founded for the purpose of isolating criminals. Hence why there were a wide variety of people bearing obligations living in it. It was probably safe to assume that at least part of their motive was having cadets interact with rehabilitees during the course of the final exam.
そうですか。それは楽しみですね。
Her smile seemed somehow refreshing.
その時はどうぞよろしくお願いしますね。
I offered her my own practiced smile.
阿久津正臣さん。
Yes.
お優しそうな方ですね。
I really did not know how to deal with this girl. Saika-san, expressing your personal opinion about others in such a way could be construed as a violation of your obligation.
試験と捉えられてしまいましたか？
Her eyes widened a bit.
申し訳ありません。皆さん、そうおっしゃるのではないかと思いまして。
No, I'm afraid it was a comment with no commonness. Me, kind. What absurdity.
以後気をつけますね。ご指導ありがとうございました。
I think you would find it most prudent to hasten from this location. The exam will be beginning soon. My words may have been more formal than necessary.
かしこまりました。
Farewell.
またお会いできるのを楽しみにしています。
The girl turned around and proceeded down the road. Right away, I blurted out something rather pointless. What about me, seemed kind? She spun around with all of the serenity and dignity of a swan.
惹かれるものを感じたのです。少し寂しそうだけれど、大きくて力強い瞳に。
They were pretty late. It had already been 2 hours since that girl's departure. The appointed time had passed by long ago, but they still had not arrived. There was no possibility that I had mistaken the time or location of our meeting. A group of people appeared in the distance, walking this way from the direction of the state line. It looked like there were 4 of them. That's a surprise. I'd been under the impression that only 1 or 2 made it to the final exam each year. I found myself a bit impatient for their arrival. Soon enough, they came far enough that I was able to make out their faces. They seemed to be in a similar enough state of exhaustion to my own. However, their facial expressions indicated that they also felt a certain sense of satisfaction.
よ、いい天気だな。
I looked at the men skeptically. You are aware tardiness is grounds for severe punishment.
と言っても、肝心の特別高等人の先生がいないようですね。
まったく、こんな山奥まで歩きで来させるなんて、正気じゃないよな。お前さんもそう思わないか？
They were wearing camouflage. They were most likely former soldiers. Personally, I would call that glint in their eyes rather insane myself. Their flawless features and sturdy builds made them appear rather youthful, but in truth, they were probably much closer to being middle-aged.
ずいぶん若いな。ひょっとして一人でここまでたどり着いたのか？
I gave him a nod.
阿久津正臣だろ？
A man emerged from within the group. He was carrying a silver duralumin case. He was garbed only in a shirt and jeans. Rather inappropriate attire, given the situation. He seemed to be about the same age as me. He smiled deeply. His facial muscles seemed to be quite accustomed to such actions.
俺は樋口三郎。一人っ子だけど三郎だ。よろしくな。
He sat his case down and extended his hand. I ignored it and spoke. Are you the leader of this group?
なんで？
The demeanor of the others in your group altered itself as soon as you opened your mouth. That is all.
なんだよ。理屈っぽい野郎だな。
Apparently, he found my demeanor strange.
阿久津？お前があの阿久津正臣か？
ほとんどの試験をパーフェクトで突破してるんだよな。意志力養成もパスしたっていう噂は本当なのかい？
It is. I had no reason to affect modesty.
すっげえ。じゃあさ、移民のダウンタウンにポイされたことあっただろ？あの時地下市場の原油取引でガンガン儲けてたってのは？
I would have to say that they are accurate.
俺さ、あの時よ、いきなり街を脱出しちゃったんだよね。だって何もスラム街で生き残れっていう試験じゃなかっただろ。だからもうちょっと治安のいい地域に住み着いて1年ぐらい経ったらさ、なんか知らないけど合格だった。ウケるべ。俺頭よくね？
He seemed rather frivolous. However, he had managed to lead a team of men through the mountains without incident. At quite a young age, too. It was safe to assume that there was more to him than met the eye.
あとよ、南方行っただろ？
During the draft,
あんた自ら志願して少年兵を専門に殺してたんだって？
he asked me lightly. The other cadets looked fairly horrified, in contrast to Higuchi's casual attitude. That is correct. I finally took Higuchi's hand. Advancing along the path which no one else will take is the key to moving up in the world. I grasped his hand with all of my strength, attempting to leave an impression on him.
ご立派なことで。
まあまあ喧嘩すんなって。今日から阿久津も俺らの仲間なんだからな。
Higuchi's own grasp was in no way inferior to my own.
な、正臣。
Oh. The more allies, the better. As long as there was no limit on the amount of people allowed to pass the final exam, of course.
お、トゲかと思ったら意外に素直なところあるじゃん。
He squinted happily. Pleased to meet you.
よろしく、正臣くん。
Machaomi.
友情は深まったか？
I turned around in surprise.
おはよう食。
It was a foreign woman.
おお、ほおずきありいてんてじゃないですか。
Higuchi alone was excited.
樋口三郎。やはり生き残ったか。
Hozuki Ari. Ari Rulian Hozuki then. I'd heard stories about a special high-class individual who was a foreign woman, but...
てんてが最終試験の指導教官なのでありますか？
嬉しいだろ？
She smiled softly.
遅刻してすまなかった。でも君らも遅れたのだろ？まあ肩の力を抜いて頑張っていこうじゃないか。
At first glance, she appeared to be a rather ordinary woman. She did not exude the overwhelming sense of violence that I had felt from all of my previous guidance instructors.
いやー、てんてのような萌えキャラが登場して一気に花開いた感じですよ。男ばっかりでむさ苦しかったんですよね。
Man, this guy feels so... this guy feels like out of, out of place. Apparently, Higuchi was already acquainted with her.
よろしくお願いします。
なんだってやらせていただきますよ。
Everyone else set themselves at ease. I, however, kept my gaze fixed upon the golden badge affixed to Miss Hozuki's chest.
なるほど。確かにむさ苦しいな。
I froze in place. I felt no pain. It took me a few seconds to realize that I had not been shot. The three men who had accompanied Higuchi were groaning dreadfully. And then they sank to the ground, their pain cut short. The roots of the sunflowers absorbed the red liquid streaming forth from their foreheads. Instant death, then. For all three of them. Higuchi began to stagger.
こいつらさ、山越えの時ずっと助けてくれたんだよね。俺一人じゃ絶対無理だったと思う。なんで？冗談だろ、てんて！
Miss Hozuki spoke plainly.
さあ、思い知っておくがいい。
さあ？
私は女性であり、移民との根血である。それがどれほど社会的に不利に働くのかをよく知っている。お前たちのような屈強な男性とは生まれた時からすでにどうにもならない差があるのだ。そしてそういう差こそが世の中を牛耳っている。だが私はこの場で唯一銃を持っている。この場で唯一人殺しをためらわない。私は遅刻しても許される。なぜなら私は貴様らよりも強い立場にあるからだ。実に理不尽な差だとは思わないか？彼ら3人は死んだのに、卑怯にも貴様ら2人は生きている。この差を 目に焼き付けておけ。生きていればこういうことはよくある。
つまり最初から俺と阿久津以外は殺すつもりだったと。
Hozuki nodded calmly.
確かに樋口のチームは頑張って最終試験までたどり着いた。だが頑張って頑張り抜いたことが何も報われないこともあるのだと知れてよかっただろ。
She sounded like a teacher admonishing a problem student.
最終試験に臨むにあたって貴様らは何も頑張らなくていい。遅刻してもいいし、失敗の言い訳をしてもいい。何でもやりますなどと浅はかな意気込みを見せなくていい。ただ納得していけばいいのだ。どうにもならないことはどうにもならないのだと。すべては私という憎らしい悪役の手のひらの上で最初から決まっているのだから。
She moved her gaze to me. The tenderness I had seen in her eyes earlier was nowhere to be found.
なあ、阿久津正臣。
Her gaze now felt like frost. I spoke up, seeking to avoid a sense of inferiority. Indeed, it is exactly as you say. Higuchi glanced at me with all the anger of a demon. He most likely found my pandering loathsome.
天帝よ、
I was speechless for a moment.
死んじまったもんはしょうがねえ。友達は生き返らない。確かにどうにもならねえよ。
Higuchi placed his hand upon my shoulder and grinned, his body still trembling with rage.
さっき知り合ったばかりだけど、こいつはもう俺のダチだ。阿久津正臣にもしものことがあったらあんたを殺す。はったりじゃない。覚えておいた方がいい。
Higuchi fell silent and attended to the corpses of the three men.
阿久津、
Yes,
樋口もそうだが、特別高等人の最終試験まで残った者は皆一様によからぬ考えを腹に抱いている。
no good.
お前はどうなんだ？
She kicked at the gravel beneath her feet. The problem was whether or not to answer honestly, or rather, whether or not to give the answer she was expecting. Up to no good. Certainly not. How unthinkable.
ほう。
I've held this ideal since I was a child. I strained my spine and thrust out my chest. I desired to take people like you, the people who so overrun our society, and trample them. There was no way I could consider this as something no good. She didn't move a muscle. The sun grew even stronger. A gust of wind blew through the sunflower field.
嬉しくて仕方がない。
She muttered to me, her face expressing disinterest, all the while.
やっと見つけたわ。
A hint of Hozuki Ari's true intentions slid forth from her feminine tone.
阿久津正臣。
Her eyes shone with carnal desire.
お前こそ私の後継者にふさわしい。
I don't think so. I don't follow anyone. I live according to my own ideas. Go ahead and try it. I shall look forward to this. That opening doesn't feel as happy as the first one. It was my first time. My first time being forced to partake in that most tepid example of communal living, that is. I'm referring to school, of course. I am Akutsu Masaomi. I looked down at the students from my position upon the platform, at the front of the room, forcing my head into a slight bow. Standing out, as it were, was not a pleasant prospect. After a short while, I softened my gaze and directed it to the floor. Nice to meet you all. Whispers began to drift throughout the classroom. Looks like he's pretty cool. Seems pretty smart too, but he seems a little distant. Apparently I had been evaluated as such, with but a single glance. I made my way to the seat I'd been assigned. As I was doing so, Higuchi took my place upon the platform. Higuchi thrust his chest out in a rather haughty fashion, then assumed a posture not unbefitting of a military officer.
ただいまご紹介に預かりました井口三郎でございます。
I might need to lower the volume a bit, the BGM. There you go. Maybe this much. Maybe up a bit. His tone filled me with disgust.
私の家系は元来無類のおっぱい好きでございまして、私も幼少の頃より自分の胸に手を当ててよーく揉んでみました。その頃よりヌーブラとは何かと真剣に考えるようになりまして、現在に至ります。
Why would they put this BGM here? Oh my god. I'm feeling so much nostalgia from the first game for this. Why now, damn it? This is the beginning of the game, you fools. A wave of chatter spread across the room.
私はプー太郎の身分ではありますが、耳たぶが人一倍大きいので将来の不安はございません。大器晩成と言われて50年を過ぎた父虎次郎、引きこもりだけど色黒の母悦子に囲まれすくすくと育った至って健康な日本男児です。
Japanese. After that, he blathered at length about Bape, moth subculture, and many other terms I never encountered before.
ですのでお前らみんな仲良くしようぜと至ってまともなオチでもってご挨拶を終えたいと思います。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
I do not believe it is proper to applaud one's audience for their stunned silence in the face of one's buffoonery.
いやー、人前に立つのは気分がいいな。
What a weird guy.
ねえねえ、マチャオミくん。
After class ended, Higuchi approached me, affecting a simpering sort of attitude. Simpering? What the heck is simpering? Affectedly coy. Ingratiating. Okay. Basically, sort of embarrassed. You
俺
need...
ら
Oh, sorry.
なんで学生やらされてんの？
You need something. I forgot to say that. Perhaps they wish for us to begin our education anew.
もう一度青春しろってことでいいのかね。
We had been sent here on Hosuke Ari's orders. There had to be some sort of reason behind it. Excuse me.
どこ行くんだよ。
I'm going to take a look around the school. I want to get a feel for what the students are like here, as well as determine the layout of the building.
おお、行動派。そんじゃあ俺はクラスの女の子たちと年頃になっておくわ。
You're pretty thick. Our exam had already begun.
モテるからね、俺は。
I had not been privy to the same brand of education that the other children of this world had experienced. As such, I found myself curious about just how many functions this institution of learning served. At a glance, though, it seemed to be nothing more than a gathering place for youths. Everything seemed rather ordinary. Boys and girls were engaging in sports-related endeavors outdoors. Various groups of students were leaving the building together. I did not catch sight of anyone wearing a badge. However, it was quite inconceivable that the special high-class individual exam would conclude with nothing more than a few idyllic days at a sleepy school in the countryside.
阿久津さん
Oh. It was the girl I had met at the sunflower field. I found my eyes drawn to her badge, as impudent as such an action was.
やっぱり阿久津さんですね。またお会いできて光栄です。
Thank you.
この学園に編入なさったのですか？
Yes, as part of my exam.
お友達はできましたか？
Not yet. After all, this is only my first day here.
学園の皆さんはいい人ばかりですから、すぐに打ち解けることができると思いますよ。
Her poise was simply sublime. She lifted her hand to her mouth as she let out an elegant titter of laughter. She seemed so very radiant to someone like me. Someone who had been raised knowing only vulgarity. Saika-san, do you mind if I ask you a question?
はい、いくらでも。私にはプライベートというものがありませんし。
Saika Mina was to strive at all times to ensure that her words were as inoffensive as possible. An open nature and pleasant nature were not asked of her, they were demanded.
それと、私に敬語を使う必要はありませんよ。
Her obligation necessitated that she choose her words with great care at all times. Very well then. Other than you, how many rehabilitees attend this school?
いいえ、私の知る限りでは一人もいませんよ。
Not a single one?
意外でしたか？
Well, not really. The students attending this school are still rather young after all. If there were any other rehabilitees attending this school, they would probably only have obligations along the lines of an absolute parental servitude. So, it is safe to assume that you are the only rehabilitee here.
ええ。
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. The word rehabilitee has a rather derogatory connotation to it, does it not? It would be prudent to refrain from using that sort of language in front of the person in question.
いえ、言葉はともかく、阿久津さんのお仕事に対する真剣さが表情から伺えて、感心してしまいました。
Well, it's not as if I'm working right now. No, wait a minute. This was the special high-class individual exam, final exam. We had been forced to attend a school in the countryside. A school which a single rehabilitee happened to be attending. Perhaps that meant... starting today, I shall be the special high-class individual in charge of you.
どういうことでしょう。確かに、今日になって突然、今まで私を見てくださっていた先生が異動になったと聞いていますが。
What about his replacement?
まだ存じておりません。
Looks like it's decided then. Please follow my orders from here on out.
はい。よろしくお願いいたします。
The exam had already begun. I needed to take action without waiting for further orders from Hozuki Ari.
なんだか恐縮です。
Really though, it seemed that supervising her would prove to be fairly easy. Please wait for me at the gate. I will accompany you home.
どちらへ？
I need to have a talk with Hozuki Ari. I had to acquire Saika-san's records. I left Saika-san behind and headed to the special guidance room on the second floor of the school. It's Akutsu.
入りたまえ。
It sounded like she had been expecting me. In the city, special high-class individuals lived in an official residence, designated specifically for their use. Their offices were located there as well. But I suppose that they simply borrowed rooms from the school here.
早かったな。
She spoke with a probing gaze, resting her chin on her hands.
長所が欲しいのだろう？
How did she know?
最短記録だ。 やはり貴様には試験に合格する資格がある。
Apparently, my prediction had been correct. Then will you allow me to serve as Saikamina's supervisor from this point forth?
よろしい。見事構成させることができれば、貴様は晴れて特別高等人だ。
Hozuki handed me several documents.
少し待て。
Yes.
暇だし、茶でも飲んでいかないか？南方産のハーブティーが入っている。
A special high-class individual was telling me that she had nothing better to do than drink some tea. Something seemed very ominous about the situation. If you wish to chat, then please allow me to refuse.
そう言うな。付き合え。
Sorry, but I have a rehabilitee waiting on me. I turned my back and made for the door.
そうか。なら仕方がない。樋口三郎の最後を見せてやろうと思ったのにな。
What?
当然だろう。あの男にはもう見るべき非構成人がいないのだから。
I turned back around. Her lips had curled into the sort of smile you'd only see in hell. Red, glossy, devilish lips. You're saying that Higuchi is going to fail.
阿久津のせいでもあるな。
My fault. She was right. It was legally impossible to assign 2 or more high-class individuals to a single rehabilitee.
まあ気にするな。我が国は世界一の競争社会。他人を蹴落とす自由が国民一人一人に与えられているのだから。
Indeed.
何か思うところがあるなら聞くが。
Perhaps this question was another part of the test. In terms of public interest, I'm quite certain that it would be favorable to have multiple successful applicants to the position.
と言っても、もう3人も殺してしまったしな。
She opened up the drawer to her desk while humming to herself. She took out a gun.
こいつは私のお気に入りでな。
She brandished the very same gun with which she had dispatched Higuchi's compatriots. The deadly speed with which Hozuki had accomplished this was nothing to scoff at. Though they may have been taken by surprise, her skills with a gun were undeniable.
もちろん、私も国家の犬として働いている身分だ。今回の試験でよりたくさんの人間を合格させた方が、放送界のお偉方の私に対する点数は良くなる。
Then, Hozuki merely shook her head.
つまらないだろう？
What?
特別高等人の最終試験はすべて私に一任されている。貴様らを生かすも殺すも私の胸一つなのだ。わからんか？
After a short pause, she began to speak with some leisure.
私は最終試験にかこつけて羽目を外しているのだ。
Beneath her smile lurked the specters of death and catastrophe.
では、樋口を呼び出して処理するとしよう。
We had reached an impasse of sorts. This woman was quite capable of disposing of Higuchi without a moment's hesitation.
どうだ、阿久津。どうにもならんことはどうにもならんだろう。
Yes, I have to agree. Higuchi had declared himself my friend entirely of his own accord, but
なんだ？
nothing. If anything happens to Akutsu Masaomi, he said,
私にはわかる。お前は一見冷酷な無頼を気取っているが、内面は義理堅く友情に熱い。
what exactly was she getting at?
樋口は危険な男ではあるが、殺すには惜しい才能を持っている。
Very well, I understand.
ほう。
A sigh escaped my lips. What is it that you desire from me? Hozuki nodded, seemingly satisfied. What must I do in order to have Higuchi's life entrusted to me? There was no reason in particular, exactly, for me to come to Higuchi's aid in such a fashion. However, I was rather curious as to Hozuki Ari's motives. motive in threatening me in such a way?
私の席に入れ。
Huh? My mouth opened so wide that even I thought I looked like an idiot.
ほおずきの姓を名乗るのはお前の将来にとってもプラスになると思うのだが。
Certainly, her words held truth. The Hozuki name was associated with an industrial group who had been among the most prominent defense contractors in the nation before the war. It brought to mind visions of the elite. The name held connections to high-ranking military officials, wealthy aristocrats, notable politicians, and members of the ruling party. It would hasten my ascent through the ranks.
靴のせいなど惜しくはあるまい。
Yeah.
養父にはさぞ恨みがあろうな。
So you knew. Her attitude had from the start suggested that I held no secrets from her. I understand your terms, but I cannot offer you an immediate response. That said, I will look upon the prospect with optimism.
では私も樋口の処分を保留にしておくとしよう。
She had had no intention of taking action against Iguchi from the start, had she? Excuse me.
余興にしては楽しめたぞ。
I had to admit that the foreign woman before my eyes was 1 or 2 steps ahead of me.
阿久津と愛を育むのも悪くはないな。
Or at least, I would like to hope that she was only 1 or 2 steps ahead of me. Sorry to keep you waiting. Saiki Mina had waited for me without complaint.
阿久津さん、見てください。素敵な夕焼けです。
I followed the direction of Saika-san's fingertip. The sinking sun cast a molten hue upon the horizon. Yes, it's quite lovely. More importantly, I've been assigned as your supervisor. I, Kutsu Masaomi, acting in the capacity of a special high-class individual, will hereby hold your human rights in the highest esteem and aid your rehabilitation into society to the best of my ability. However, if a situation arises where I deem that you are acting with negligence regarding your obligation, I reserve the right to temporarily revoke your human rights. I will then employ any means necessary, up to and including corporal punishment, to steer you back onto the path of righteousness. Now, regarding the details of your obligation, in addition to those established by the Grand Court, I'm authorized to provide supplementary restrictions at my own discretion. Furthermore, I'm tasked with the supervision of any new rules I personally establish. Lastly, if I decide that you have demonstrated a sincere adherence to the guidelines established by your obligation, coupled with meaningful reflections upon your actions, as well as a dedicated commitment to rehabilitation, I will immediately file a claim with the Grand Court calling for the dismissal of your obligation. That is all. Do you have any questions pertaining to this matter? After finishing with my trite, compulsory phrases, I looked at Saika-san.
はい、大丈夫です。
I see. Would you mind explaining to me the details of your obligation then? Her obligation was known as denial of privacy. It was always a good idea to listen to the rehabilitees' conception of their own obligation. Doing as such could provide some insight as to their thought process regarding their original crime. I'd been expecting a lengthy explanation. What I received, however, was a single sentence, accompanied by a death sort of smile.
私はすでに私ではありません。
Meaning,
阿久津さんの目の前にいるのは私ではなく、私のような何かなのです。私は決して愚痴を吐いたり否定的な言葉を口にしません。人に不快感を与えないよう常に気を配っています。当たり障りのない会話を主に選んでいるつもりです。私には1日24時間のうちプライベートと呼ばれる時間はありません。
Indeed. I bet you barely even have time to breathe. Not that I intend to give you any myself. We'll be living together from now on. Let us make an effort to get along.
厳しいご指導をお願いします。
She bowed politely. Honestly, she seemed to be a model case. I wanted to apply for the cancellation of her obligation with some haste, but perhaps it would be more prudent to observe her for a while longer. Is her name Saika or Saiki? I could have sworn it was Saiki before. I think it's supposed to be Saika though. Saika's residence was near the sunflower field at the town entrance. Do you live by yourself?
父と母は都会で暮らしています。
Do you have any trouble with living expenses?
仕送りを十分にいただいていますので。
She waved her hand at me, telling me not to worry.
どうかなさいましたか？
Nothing. Having money is a wonderful thing.
何か気に障りましたでしょうか？
Not at all. Let's stop standing around and head inside.
長旅でお疲れでしょ？すぐに夕飯の支度をしますね。
Yes. Her estate was certainly rather impressive. She didn't seem to be lying about being well off, at least.
料理には自信があるんです。何でも言ってください。
The black market was currently flourishing in the city in the aftermath of the first Southern campaign. You needn't fuss over me.
そんな遠慮なさらずに。食べなければ体が持たないでしょ？
I'll just catch a snake from around back and eat that.
ヘビ？
She clearly didn't believe me. I'm not joking. I was raised in a very poor home. I'm quite adept at procuring my own food. She caught her breath.
すみません。私、なんだか押し付けがましいですよね。
A rather restrained woman, wasn't she? Apologizing for offering hospitality.
帰ったぞ。
What is this? Why are you here?
アリー先生に聞いた。阿久津を助けて2人仲良く試験に合格しろってさ。
So, I can interpret that as you have been assigned to supervise Saika-san as well.
知らね。
Stop screwing around.
とにかく正臣と一緒に暮らすぞ。
He barged into the room, carrying his silver duralumin case by his side.
どうも、こんばんは。
はい、こんばんは。って誰？
サイカミーナです。この度、阿久津さんの指導を受けることになりました。
ああ、はいはい。ここあなたの家ね。
He just walked right on in without even knowing who owned the house.
かわいいね。
What's this all of a sudden?
いつも笑ってるの？気が利く人でしょ。
いえいえ。あ、座ってください、阿久津さん。
She pushed a small chair in my direction.
ちょっとおっちょこちょいでしょ。
そんなことは。あ、お風呂のお湯出しっぱなしでした。
貧乏症なところあるでしょ。
ないと思いますよ。シールが貼ってあるバナナに巡り合うとちょっとテンション上がるくらいです。
かといって臆病なわけでもないでしょ。
いえ、たまに北枕で寝てみるくらいですね。
完璧だ。
What is?
結婚してください。
He took a deep bow.
そうですね。
Saika-san was at a bit of a loss. She laughed her way out of it. Higuchi, enough of your tomfoolery.
茶番じゃないぜ。結婚は俺の人生の最終目標だ。
I don't care. Just shut up. Your idiocy is so incessant that I can't even hear myself think.
なんだか賑やかでいいですね。
Strange bedfellows would perhaps be an apt phrase to describe our situation.
ごちそうさまでした。
お味はどうでしたか？
You're quite skilled with cooking.
樋口さんは？
甘みがね、足らんのよ。
Gucci, she served us rice soup and miso glazed fish. What exactly in this meal was supposed to have been sweet?
俺は甘フェチなんだよ。お菓子の国生まれだし。
You don't have a serious bone in your body, do you?
ど真面目な正臣とはいい友達になれそうだよ。
Higuchi just kept grinning, no matter how much disgust I poured into my gaze.
阿久津さん、
Yes? She looked a bit nervous.
その
Her cheeks were burning bright red.
お手洗いに行きたいのですが。
The words passed from her lips as with vomit.
行けばいいじゃん。
I see. Understood.
やはり
Indeed.
専任の強盗人の方には認められていたのですが。
I'm not your previous special high-class individual.
何の話？
Tell me, Higuchi, how on earth did you make it to the final exam?
だからなんだよ。もったいつけんなよ。
I will now accompany Saika-san as she relieves herself. Silence fell over the room.
お前何言ってんの？不気味なやつだとは思ってたけど、まさか変態だとは。
It's part of my duty, right, Saika-san?
はい。
I will explain it to you in simple terms. Higuchi's smile had quickly soured. Of the many different individualisms afforded a person, this girl is not allowed the concept of privacy.
いや、もうちょい簡単に言う努力をしろよ。
In other words, we, as special high-class individual cadets, are to keep her under observation at all times. We are not to allow her even a second with which to relax. This is because we must continually confirm whether or not she is acting in a pleasant manner toward the people around her.
そんなのかわいそうだろうが。
Indeed, quite miserable, and truly an overly sentimental man.
睨むなよ。どうにもならないってことだな。
As long as you understand. Well then, shall we go? While you're at it, how about a bath?
はい。すみません。口答えをしてしまって。
阿久津、待て。
What? Are you going to complain further?
特別高等人としてミーナちゃんのトイレと風呂に付き合うんだったな。
Don't make me repeat myself. Higuchi's next words were accompanied by a most detestable facial expression.
その役目、俺とチェンジしてくれる気はないかな。
Of course not. Well, she showed her boobs, so I guess I'll censor that. Well, just the boobs, really. Oh, there's a lot of dots. Tense was not a strong enough word to describe the atmosphere in the cramped bathroom.
阿久津さん、すみません。立ちっぱなしにさせてしまって。
Do not worry about it. As she scrubbed her arm with a sponge, she would occasionally steal a glance or two back at me.
すみませんね。先にお風呂をいただいてしまって。
Do not worry about it.
気にするなと言われても。
Did you say something?
いえ。
She must have been a bit shaken up. I couldn't blame her. The man she had met just hours ago was now watching her in the nude. The abject silence dominating the room probably wasn't very comforting either. It would be best to try and put her at ease. So you said that your previous high-class individual did not invade your privacy to this extent.
はい、そうです。最初はくまなく私の私生活に密着されていたんですが、月日が経つにつれて。
I see. I suppose he loosened your restrictions because he was convinced that your rehabilitation had proven successful.
先生にはもう少しで義務が解消されるとのお言葉をいただいていました。
Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of her chest through the gap under her arm. Is something the matter?
いえ、
Do not worry about it.
阿久津さんはよく平然としていられますね。
I'm already accustomed to seeing females in the nude. Back in the war, that is.
そうですか。失礼しました。
By the way, I had a look at your records.
長所というと、私の罪状や義務を負った経緯について書かれた？
You were born into a family of the Shinto priesthood. Her shoulders trembled slightly. The Saika clan practices a doctrine which was part of what was considered our country's state religion up until the Middle Ages, correct? Of course, at present, we have advanced to secularization, and such practices have been reduced to the level of ceremonies performed to enliven national holidays. There is a distinct flavor of religious influence present in our official ceremonies to this day. For example, I watched the president's inauguration on television. The person administering the oaths of office was...
はい、祖母だと思います。当家はとても由緒正しい家柄と言いますか。いえ、私は家の秩序を乱してしまったのですけれど。
Indeed, it would appear that you ran away from home several times. Her slight gasp contained a hint of fright. Your records also commented on how you made no attempt to practice proper etiquette or learn how to dance, how you employed improper language, and how your family's name suffered greatly as a result of your actions. Eventually, her delinquent behavior had been photographed by a tabloid, leading to her arrest. Is everything I have said correct? She pursed her lips ever further. There was a slight pause, a pause filled with protest. If you belong to an average family, it would be different perhaps. However, you have been born into an environment where you must eventually assume your position as a representative of tradition to the people. You have been tasked with becoming a person of some class, someone who can command respect and adulation of those around them. A saint even. What the heck is adulation? Obsequious flattery. Oh my god, really? That's disgusting. Ugh. Really now. It would most likely be worthless to question her about the details of her crime. Her parents had filed the complaint personally. I suppose you could consider this case compulsory personality correction. Yes.
本当に申し訳ありませんでした。
Are you reflecting on your crimes? Ridiculous.
私は子供の頃から厳しいしつけのもとで育てられていまして。
I can already imagine what happened. You grew tired of leading that sort of life, correct? You had been raised to be a proper little princess, correct?
すみません。言い訳がましいことを言ってしまって。
As long as you understand that, it isn't an issue. Her body shook. One more push should do it. I have no interest in the circumstances regarding the bestowing of your obligation.
はい。
We live in an unstable age. For all I know, you may be the victim of a false charge.
いえ、免罪というわけではありません。
Whatever the case may be, I intend to simply carry out my duty and nothing more. I intend to correct your personality into an existence which has discarded its personal life and lives only to please others. I strengthened my tone and sent a piercing gaze straight into her back.
わかりました。
She nodded without the barest hint of apprehension. Perhaps she had already closed her heart. Whatever. It hardly mattered. Well then, would you like me to wash your back? I wouldn't want you to get chilled from taking a bath.
結構です。恥ずかしいですから。
She grew flustered once more. I suppose I must have reminded her that a man was viewing her in the nude. I doubted I would have many problems with her supervision.
どうだった？
Higuchi had been waiting my return. He wore a terribly dejected expression. I answered him, watching Saika-san drying her hair with a towel out of the corner of my eye. I believe I have managed to grasp her basic personality.
ちげえよバカ。 裸の付き合いをしてきたんだろうが。
So?
やったんだろうやったんだろうがやったんだろうがっつってんだろうが。
Nice face, dude.
どうなんだおっぱいでかかっただろうがおっぱいでかかっただろうがっつってんだろうが。
I think you may need a cold shower, Higuchi. Why exactly would my actions prompt a reaction of such a degree?
くそー許せねえ涼しい顔しやがって。
A high-class individual who makes his emotion apparent has failed at his study,
ち
at his duty.
次は俺の番だからな。
I'm afraid not. Lord knows what you would perpetrate. Special high-class individuals are allowed to violate their rehabilitee's privacy after all. Saika-san had already managed to put on her uniform. That is the uniform specified for this district, correct? They seem rather inconvenient for the purposes of sleep, but she would just have to put up with that.
そろそろお休みになられませんか？長旅で疲れてらっしゃるでしょ？
I suppose. Yes. It had been quite an arduous trek. I suddenly became keenly aware of how much a toll crossing that mountain had taken on my body.
やはり。
もちろんミーナちゃんの隣で眠らせてもらうぜ。
Apparently, I would need to keep watch on both Higuchi and Saika-san. It was the middle of the night. I could hear Saika-san breathing softly in her sleep.
むくり。
It wasn't every day you encountered someone saying Mukuri while they were awake. Higuchi, are you...
ちまだ起きていたか。
The sky was incorrigible. You seemed to be rather woman crazy, shall we say. I spoke in a whisper so as to not wake Saika-san.
世界中の女は俺のもの。覚えておいた方がいいぜ。
Should you not get some rest?
お前が寝るまでは寝ない。
That line of thought certainly won't get us anywhere.
寝込みを襲われたら大変だからな。
I don't engage in such practices.
そういう意味じゃねえよ。
He laughed deeply, pulling his Duralumin case toward him.
阿久津正臣。前に言った通り、お前はもう俺のダチだ。お前は俺のダチだが、今は特別高等人の試験中だ。わかるな？友達であり、ライバルでもあるというわけだ。最終試験の合格枠は一人なのかもしれないしね。
I see. Indeed. Being attacked in your sleep would certainly be most unpleasant. As I had thought, he was not merely an idiot. What is that Duralumin case?
ああ、これ寝る前に本でも読もうと思ってさ。
He had packed books in there. So even Higuchi reads books.
しっけえなやつだな、ほんと。教養の差を思い知らせてやろうか。
He put his hand into the case and took out a notebook. Nice reference, game.
見るか？俺の秘蔵の持ちネタがぎっしりだぞ。
He seemed quite proud of it. Come to think of it, when you were introducing yourself at the school, you used quite a few strange words.
奇妙な？
I believe you said something like Japan, was it?
ああ、そりゃ俺の持ちネタじゃねえよ。SF 小説のネタだよ。
By sci-fi novels, you mean that series which has been quite popular recently.
え？読んだことねえの？
I don't read drivel like that. Fiction is nothing more than the daydreams of those with twisted imaginations. Thanks, Masaomi. Thanks a lot, dude.
つまんないこと言うなよ。持ってきてるから今度貸してやるって。
No thanks.
読めって。俺と友達になれるぞ。
I told you no thanks. I shook my head and returned to my bed.
面白いのにな。
I'll be heading to bed first. Let me warn you, people have attacked me in my sleep before. They ended up being the one laid flat.
南方でか？
No.
ん？
I feign a yawn.
まあいいか。俺も寝ますよ。と、その前に今日の一発ギャグを考えてからだな。ネタを残して遺産とするのだ。驚け、我が子供たちよ。
I drifted into the realm of sleep while listening to Higuchi's blather. Her sleeping face was as innocent as a child's. It was innocent and filled with kindness. It felt somehow genuine. Perhaps if I had been able to make a face like that while I slept, I could have gotten along with my father better. Who knows, dude? I thought you don't dwell in the past. Though it was currently midsummer, I was greeted by a pleasantly cool morning. A refreshing breeze blew in from the window. After collecting myself, I rose from the futon.
おはようございます。
Saika-san stood in front of me, meeting the morning with a broad stretch. You didn't wake up before I did you? If that were true, I would be guilty of neglecting my duty.
いえ、今ちょうど目が覚めたところです。
She appeared to be telling the truth. Her pupils were still wandering this way and that. I don't believe I've ever seen someone sleep in such a position before. Hey, Higuchi.
そんな無理に起こしてはかわいそうじゃ。
I pulled the sheets off of him and slapped him around a few times.
なんだよ。もう朝かよ。
He yawned in a very ignorant fashion. Aren't you supposed to be supervising Saika-san as well? Get to work.
すぐ朝ごはんの支度をしますね。
You heard her. Keep an eye on her while she's cooking.
なんだよ。お前は？俺に仕事押し付けて何をやろうってんだ？
I'm about to meditate for 10 minutes. I'll be taking economic notes for 30 minutes after that.
要するにプライベートタイムってことかい？
Higuchi shrugged his shoulders and shot a glance at Mina.
ミーナちゃん、よろしく。
はい、よろしくお願いします。あ、樋口さん、口元でよだれの跡がすごいことになっていますよ。拭いて差し上げましょうか。
She leaned toward him with a rag in hand, smiling all the while.
いや、ありがとう。毎日頼むよ。
Are you a child?
阿久津さんも髪が少し跳ねていらっしゃいますよ。
どうぞ。
待っててください。櫛を持ってきますね。
I would have to pay more attention to my personal appearance. We might have managed to win the World War, but our country's luck ran out when we decided to impose our influence upon the country to the south. Despite employing a sizable amount of troops in the first southern campaign, we suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the local resistance. For quite some time, our economy had been in a severe depression due to the vast amount of war expenditures and reparations our government had been forced to make. However, in recent months, companies dealing in heavy industry had seen their stocks rising. This is most likely due to foreigners who had immigrated here in the wake of the war pouring in capital. These immigrants had originally been seen as despicable second-class citizens. Now, however, their standpoint in our society was nearly the opposite. Foreign civil servants like Ari, Aruli, and Hozuki had also begun to make their merit apparent. If we had not embarked upon the second Southern campaign, our economy may have been taken over by naturalized foreigners. Interesting.
おい、マサオミン、いい加減飯にしようぜ。
Wait just a bit longer.
阿久津さん、お忙しいところすみませんが、スープが冷めてしまいますよ。
そんなノートつけて、一体何の役に立つって言うんだ？
After I finish compiling data and proofreading it, I intend to send it to a scientific institute. By doing so, my notoriety as a special high-class individual will increase.
へえ、出世に余念がないな。
What about you? Are you making no efforts?
いろいろ補習が残ってるけど、まあ大丈夫じゃねえかな。試験には受かるでしょ。俺天才だし。
I would really like to examine the contents of this man's head.
スープ、温め直してきますね。
She humbly marched back into the kitchen, carrying a pan. No, that's okay. I'll eat it now.
いえいえ、どうぞお勉強続けてください。
My apologies. I gazed at Saika-san. I wish to offer you my gratitude. As special high-class individuals, we are required to monitor your personal life, but you are not expected to prepare meals and bedding for us.
そうおっしゃらずに、ご飯はみんなで食べるから美味しいんですよ。
Her words carried a natural air, as did her smile. Though we were imposing on her, I could not detect even a hint of artificiality in her actions.
何じーっと見つめてるんだよ。
照れてしまいます。
No, it's nothing. Anyway, let us eat breakfast. I will be attending classes with you starting today, Saika-san.
はい。学園の許可などはいりませんか？
Things will work themselves out.
じゃあマサオミ、あとは任せたぞ。
What?
俺は街を散策し、ナンパに明け暮れる。
Don't come crying to me when Hozuki kills you.
大丈夫大丈夫。その時はお前がまたかばってくれるんだろ。
He just about bounded out of the house. I have to say, I don't remember covering for Higuchi in the past exactly.
お二人とも仲が良さそうですね。
Do you really think so?
はい。古くからのお友達なのですか？
No. I shook my head. We have not. Though if we appear that way to others then, though it pains me to admit it, Higuchi and I must be rather compatible. I nodded a bit, talking to myself.
阿久津さんはいつもそうなのですか？
How do you mean? Her response took its time in coming. For a short time, she merely stared at me. I felt almost as if my inner thoughts were being reflected in her eyes.
本意が見えないと言いますか。冷静で客観的なのです。いつも人と距離を置いていらっしゃるよう。
That may be true, but aren't you the same way, Saika-san? You act with the utmost moderation at all times, in order to facilitate smooth relations with the people around you. Personally, I think you could consider this the most viably form of social interaction. Saika-san's eyes widened a bit.
私たちは似た者同士なのかもしれませんね。
Same. As I paused to digest her words, an insect flitted in front of my face, interrupting my concentration.
カブトムシですよ。
Indeed it is.
すごいな。大きいカブトムシだ。かっこいいな。捕まえてみたいな。
What do you intend to do after catching it?
どうするって楽しいじゃありませんか。
Aw. I sighed.
近くで見てみませんか？
Saika-san lost herself in the pursuit, heading off into the bushes without another word. What about us was the same exactly?
皆さん、おはようございます。
Saika-san spoke with pride as she entered the classroom.
こちらは阿久津正臣さんです。 すごく頭の鋭い方で、特別高等人の先生でいらっしゃいます。
No, I'm still just a cadet.
失礼しました。とにかく皆さん、仲良くしてくださいね。
I calmly observed the students gazing at us. They seemed to regard Saika-san quite warmly.
皆さん、なんか制服汚れてない？
さっきまでうちの近くでカブトムシを見てたんですよ。
She grinned broadly.
阿久津さんは5匹も捕まえてくださったんです。もうすごいんです。阿久津さんは素早い動きに感動してしまいました。
Saika-san seemed to be the only person genuinely excited about her tale. However, the rest of the students listened to her warmly, nonetheless. They smiled as one would while watching an innocent child at play.
もちろんカブトムシは山に返してあげましたよ。
I'd been planning to eat them though. Oops. I'm sorry, that was a joke. Apparently, I'm not very good with jokes.
びっくりしました。もうからかわないでください。
Sure, that was a joke, dude. I'm terribly sorry. I see. So that was considered to be teasing.
さあ、授業が始まりますよ。席は私の隣でしたっけ？
She pulled out a chair.
勉強道具なかったら貸しますので、何でも言ってください。
Sorry to impose.
でも阿久津さんは基礎課程はほとんど終了しているんでしたっけ？
Pretty much.
では逆に勉強を教えてくださいますか？
If it's something, I understand. Her mood kept jumping from one extreme to another, and I kept responding to her in the same curt manner. It seemed that my initial impression of her had proven accurate. This girl really did throw off my rhythm. Indeed.
ミーナさん、ちょっとここ教えて。いいですよ。
次のテストの山張ってくれない？
I really don't remember what's like I remember the ending, I feel, but I think at this point people already know what's gonna happen too. But I feel like you probably already know what's gonna lead up to what's going to happen, but I don't know exactly what's going on. Like I forgot the details really. What I'm thinking right now though is that I don't know. I think I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to voice my thoughts just yet.
頑張ってみます。
A crowd gathered around Saika-san during the break between classes.
お昼一緒に食べようよ。今日はですね、お菓子を焼いたんです。
She took something out of her bag and proceeded to unwrap it. These were some quite unusual looking sweets. It looked like she had used flour, butter, and syrup to cook them. I had to applaud her ability to get our hands on such ingredients in this day and age. She had said that her parents sent her an allowance. Such is the power of wealthy families, I suppose.
お茶も用意してますよ。みんなでのんびりしましょうね。阿久津さんは甘いものは苦手ですか？
Looks like she was trying to talk to me too. Time to do my job, I guess. I absolutely hate them. Can't stomach a single one. I made a rather unpleasant expression. She was required to stay in the good graces of others at all times. Certainly, there is something to be said for kindness and generosity. However, purposeful goodwill cannot always win you the hearts of others.
そうですか。
So, then your counter.
すみません。本当にそんなに気を悪くされるとは思いませんでした。
An earnest apology?
ただ、阿久津さん、これとっても美味しいんです。実家ではよくお母さんに作ってもらっていて、お茶会をするときは必ず出てくるんです。
Did I not just state my dislike of sweets?
すみません。無理に進めるつもりはないのですが、ただ
You just what?
ただ阿久津さんと一緒に 食べたかったものですから。
The school day had reached its end. Students began to file out of the classroom.
阿久津さん、お疲れ様でした。
The forlorn expression she had worn at lunchtime was now nowhere to be found.
授業はどうでしたか？
Honestly, they were fairly tedious. People with clear objectives in mind for the future, such as myself, have no need for the countless lectures of the basic educational system.
阿久津さんの目標はやはり特別高等人になることですか？
That's correct. That's kind of a really like arrogant approach, to be fair, but I can't say it's entirely wrong. That was merely one step on my path. However, I found school itself to be a rather fresh experience. It seemed quite inefficient at first, what with having everyone learn at the same pace, but I soon began to think that this could, in fact, serve to facilitate the development of cooperative skills.
学園が新鮮？
She seemed quite bemused by the prospect. Do not worry about it. My home simply did not have enough money to cover school expenses. Anyway, I must put in my report to Miss Hozuki before we leave the school.
わかりました。私は阿久津さんのそばを離れるわけにはいきませんし、お供します。
Very well. Kutsu here. I've come to give today's report.
入りたまえ。暇だ。
Hozuki Ari let her elbows rest upon the desk, a dissatisfied expression clouding her face. She had the gun from before wrapped around her index finger via the trigger hole and was idly spinning it round and round. To me, she resembled a bored child with restless hands.
失礼いたします。
As soon as Saika-san spoke, however, Miss Hozuki's eyes lit up.
偉いぞ、阿久津。一時も離れずに彩花を監視しているのだな。樋口はどうだ？さすがに阿久津一人で四六時中つきまとうのは大変だと思って補佐人としてつけてやったぞ。
Reporting.
聞かせてくれたまえ。
I glanced briefly at Saika-san, then proceeded with my report. I began my supervision of Saika-mina at 1700 hours yesterday. My thoughts after monitoring for one evening are as follows. Her rehabilitation is proceeding admirably. I can find no particular faults with her. However, today, I've discovered that she may have a tendency to impose kindness upon others to a degree which may be seen as unpleasant, and as such...
うるさい。
She cut me off with a single harsh edict. Okay. Decree.
うるさいぞ、阿久津。
She stood up slowly.
ハエか、貴様は。
A special high-class individual who stood a full 2 heads shorter than me, who seemed a child even, forced her presence upon me. Saika-san retreated, repressing a shriek. What exactly do you mean by that? I stood there mutely, unaware of the purpose behind her actions.
結論から言え。
Her gaze pierced through me.
構成は終了したのかしていないのか。
I responded immediately, unwilling to allow her the opportunity to overwhelm me with her wicked atmosphere. Not yet. I apologize. She took the opportunity to train her gun on me.
謝るな。以後、生きている限り二度と謝るな。
This was not a throwaway remark intended to impress one's subordinate. Her words held a true menace. But her request was absurd. I'd been with Saika-san for merely a day.
お前は内心こう思っている。まだ一日目だろうと。だが私に言わせればもう一日も経ったのだ。初日だし、サイカミーナの性格を分析していたのだろう。理屈屋の阿久津らしい出だしだな。
She drew ever closer to me, her gaze and voice completely unwavering.
経過報告などいらん。成果だけを持ってこい。
I understand. I will hasten in my endeavor.
よろしい。失せろ。
Excuse me. Saika-san, let's go. We escaped from the room. Saika-san's expression was pale. Her shoulders heaved as she attempted to draw a steady breath once more. Are you okay? I have to admit, I was sweating a little myself.
あの方は一体
My superior, Miss Hozuki Ari,
私阿久津さんが殺されてしまうのではないかと。
excellent intuition on her part. If I had said anything further, I would have been closer to that, yes.
先日まで私を監督してくださった先生もあそこまで恐ろしい方ではありませんでした。
Indeed, they made certain to assign a particularly excellent special high-class individual to the final exam. Sorry, but you'll just have to put up with it until the exam concludes.
はい、すみません。取り乱してしまって。
No, that is perfectly understandable. Come, let's go. Don't apologize. Her words resonated through my head, amplified by the orange light. Orange? What is that? Light of dusk. Okay, there we go. Light of dusk.
遅えよおめえら。
Higuchi let his complaints ooze forth as soon as we arrived home.
夜遅くまで二人きりでどこほっつき歩いてたんだ？
Dare I even ask what you have been up to?
街中をうろついていたんだがな。若い子の一人もいやしねえ。もうおばちゃんばっかりでよ。かそってるんじゃねえのか？
You truly went out solely for leisure? I just about reached my wit's end with this man.
すみません。すぐご飯にしますからね。
いや、先にお風呂もらうよ。暑くて仕方がねえや。
I smelled something odd as Higuchi passed by me. Hey, Higuchi.
あ
I whispered so that Saika-san couldn't hear. I smell blood on you.
ああ、野ざらしにしておくのもむごいだろ。
So, he had been off burying his comrades who had been disposed of by Hozuki.
風呂でこっそり涙流そうっと。
He went off.
どうかなさいましたか？
No. You mind if I employ some guidance techniques?
かしこまりました。なんなりと。
She humbly straightened her posture. First, I apologize for my behavior this morning.
昼間？
I do not actually dislike sweets. Well, I can't say I'm a fan of them either, though.
でもあの時は怒ってらっしゃいましたよね。
I was testing you
どうしてですか？
because I had a theory that your courtesy could in fact produce the opposite of its intended effect with some people.
どういう意味でしょう？
She looked puzzled. You are very popular at school. Everyone comes to you with their problems. However, do remember this. There are people who will detest you simply because others admire and respect you. Of course, the problem here lies with these people, not you, but given your obligation, such a situation could prove fatal. In the worst case scenario, complaints could result in her being sent to a concentration camp.
すみません。私はただ皆さんに楽しんでいただければと思っているだけでして。
And what I am telling you is that there are crooked people in this world. People who merely sneer at others' kindness. People such as myself.
そんな阿久津さんはそういう人には見えませんよ。
Her smile was gentle. Her tone was steady. We appear to have gotten off topic. For the time being, I want you to try to put a bit more distance between yourself and others.
もう少しですか？
Perplexity dimmed her features. You are saying that you already maintain an adequate distance from others? She nodded.
誰からも好かれる人を目指すには、結局、あまりお友達と仲良くなりすぎないことだと、私なりに考えたことがありまして。
Not wrong there. That is correct. Only a true saint could continue to conceal the ugly parts of their personality from intimate acquaintances.
ですから、学園以外でお友達と顔を合わせないようにしているんです。
I hope you guys don't hear that. Something, there was a pop-up on my PC.
家に遊びに行ったり、川でお魚を釣ったり、山登りに出かけたり、そういうお誘いはお友達のご機嫌を損ねないように適度にお断りしているんです。
A hint of regret played at the corner of her mouth. I see. If she had truly put this level of thought into how to live her life, then perhaps my services were unnecessary. Very well. I shall observe you for a few more days. If all is according to my standards, I shall apply for the cancellation of your obligation.
ありがとうございます。
She smiled happily. But please do keep in mind what I said before. The best option for you is simply not involving yourself with such crooked persons.
はい。
She seemed to understand. Saika-san was truly considerate, a kind-hearted girl through and through. I had expected a much tougher case for the final exam, to be quite honest. And yet I had been assigned a girl who was clearly only a few steps away from rehabilitation. This is too easy. Was there something more to this?
何かおっしゃいましたか？
She might have looked like a princess, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was hiding behind that mask.
どうしました？難しいお顔をしてますよ。
Nothing for you to worry about. I was simply brought to a new realization of my own crookedness.
ウケる。そこでそうきちゃうの？
Would you mind shutting up? I kicked Higuchi, who was sprawled out on the floor, enjoying a novel.
だってよ、爆発落ちの連続だぜ。とりあえず困ったら火つけてんじゃねえっつーの。
He wheezed, clasping his stomach.
楽しそうですね。
ミーナちゃんも読むかい？
Higuchi, don't tell me you are trying to give Saika-san a hobby now.
なんでだよ。
Her obligation prohibits anything that could be construed as a hobby. If you're asking me why, then, well, say for example, she takes a liking to a certain novel. This could go on to become a personal opinion of hers, and disagreements with others could arise as a result.
ちょっとぐらいいいじゃねえかよ。
すみません。阿久津さんのおっしゃる通り、趣味は持たないようにしているのです。
俺の SF 小説が読めねえってのか？
すみません。すみません。
I've just had about enough of you. Seriously, Higuchi. Do you really understand what it means to be a special high-class individual cadet?
じゃあ、お前が代わりに読めよ。
Didn't I already tell you that I don't concern myself with such drivel? How could anyone tolerate this man?
読め！読まんと俺と会話ができんぞ。
Yes, very well. I will read them, so please cease your jabber.
本当か？
You have a point. If I read one of these books, I may be able to understand the nonsense that goes on inside your head.
おお、心の友よ。
Winning over Higuchi would not prove to be a disadvantage in any case.
じゃあ、一番面白い日本編を貸してやろう。
I just need to take a quick glance through these, and then try to follow along with his conversations. Higuchi presented me with a book, ignorant of my true intent. I shall be reading this for a short while then. I trust you know what to do during this time.
おうよ、ミーナちゃんを見守ってればいいんだろ。
I nodded, and took a look down at the novel. Higuchi's sweat still clung to it. So it's a comedy. 8 o'clock gathered around. What sort of title is that? This was obviously one of those banal affairs where some imbecile of a man made a continued fool of himself in order to tickle the reader's superiority complex. Look, the main character just slipped on a banana peel. How predictable can you get? And now he's going to jump into a pond or something? What, a bucket came flying at him? Well, certainly, it betrayed my expectations, but it's nothing particularly fascinating, of course.
どうしたマサオミ。
Nothing. Oh. How very intriguing. What? What? Oh no. I'm not voicing this shit. This has gotta be an act.
声
Probably not an act
さ
though.
ん、ハマってますね。
不気味すぎるよ。
阿久津さん、すみません。
Nice BGM.
おい、マサオミ。ミーナちゃんがお風呂に入りたがってるぞ。
I returned to my senses as Higuchi tapped me on the shoulder. Oh, I see. It's already that late.
クソ真面目なマサオミくんがそこまでハマってくれるとは思わなかったぞ。
It would seem that I had been grinning quite broadly. And apparently I had laughed out loud as well. I don't. I mean, I merely thought that being familiar with popular novels such as these could aid in my pursuit as a special high-class individual. And in any case, you were so insistent upon it that I simply had no choice but to read it. Normally, I would have no interest in such trite amusements.
ほう。じゃあもういいな。そんなブルーな顔するなよ。
No, I think I will read a few more in order to further understand your thought pattern.
素直に面白いから続きを貸せと言えないのかよ。
ちょっと、
Are you still concerned over my presence?
はい、すみません。
Well, think about it this way. You need only endure it for a few days further. You'll soon be free.
だといいのですけれど。
Are you ill at ease with the prospect? I lean forward a bit.
いえ、
What is it? Feel free to speak anything that is on your mind.
義務が解消されたら、私はどうなるのかなと思いまして。
What would happen to you? Certainly you would be sent back to your parents' home in order to practice Shintoism.
そうですよね。名誉なことです。
Indeed. You could even consider it a position of, shall we say, worship from the nation's people. First was the honor bestowed upon only those born into wealth and privilege. To your ordained success, I must say, I find it a bit of an envious position.
羨ましいですか？
Oh no, excuse me. I was merely joking. Those are not my true thoughts. I found myself quite talkative. It must have been the fault of that cheerful book earlier. She spoke up while washing her hair.
阿久津さんはどうして特別高等人を目指していらっしゃるんですか？
Why do you ask that?
いえ、
Oh, sorry. Twitchy fingers.
いえ、
She played with the ends of her hair as she faltered in her questioning. You envy me. Finally, her hands came to a stop. Your path through life was decided for you at birth, but I have been given at least occupational freedom.
おっしゃる通りです。私と同じくらいの年齢の阿久津さんが目標に向かって熱心に頑張っている姿を見て憧れているのかもしれません。
As their bathing continued, she would occasionally glance back at me over her shoulder.
オケを取っていただけますか？
Yes, here you are. Would you like me to wash your body for you? It was merely a suggestion. She shrank away from me as a turtle would, into its shell as I passed her the washtub. You see, Saika-san,
はい。
I desire nothing other than strength. The strength to subdue the masses. If this is not possible, then, at the very least, I wish to expel all those more powerful than I am from the world.
本気ですか？
I nodded, as was only natural. That is the reason I decided to become a special high-class individual. It is simply because they hold the greatest strength. I could not tell if her sigh was out of admiration or vexation.
シンプルですね。
My ambition should be easy enough to understand, yes.
けれど、その分力強いです。
What about you?
私？
What are your thoughts on becoming part of the Shinto priesthood? She paused to think for a moment.
名誉なことです。
Her words seemed somehow too deliberate.
一時は悩みもしましたが、こうやって義務を負ってお父様やお母様に迷惑をかけていると思うと、わがままもしていられないなと反省しています。
Her words seemed somehow too mechanical.
早く実家を継ぎたいです。
It is quite admirable of you. But what of it? How she spent her life after the cancellation of her obligation was no concern of mine. It was impossible for a special high-class individual who fixated on minute details of his charges' private lives to effectively manage multiple rehabilitees at once. It has grown quite hot in here. Will you be finishing up soon? I would like to bathe myself, so I'll leave you in Higuchi's care during that time.
わかりました。変なことを聞いてすみませんでした。
Despite her apology, it was clear that she wished to continue our discussion. However, I gave her my usual shake of the head. Do not worry about it. A midsummer night had descended, and there was not a trace of wind in the air. Saika-san was asleep in her futon.
おい、正臣。あんまり暗いところで本を読むんじゃねえぞ。
Don't concern yourself with me. Go to bed.
今、どの辺読んでるの？なんで黙るんだよ。
It's a love story.
ん？
It's a love story.
おお、強調しなくていいぞ。
It's about a man who is rebelling against his community for the sake of a woman.
ああ、そんなのあったな。燃えるだろ？
No, it's foolish. I closed the book and looked at Higuchi. The man is an imbecile. The woman he was in love with ended up dying as a result of his plot.
何を言ってるのかね、君は。ラストに女が死ぬことで涙なしでは語れない感動のストーリーになってるじゃねえか。
I won't profess to understand its value as a story. However, I do know what I dislike. That I dislike how the man was treated as a hero afterwards.
なんでだよ。国を救ったんだぞ。
But the woman died, and she was the very reason he was fighting to begin with. It's like putting the cart before the horse.
そうじゃねえだろ。なんつうのかな。愛だよ。愛は永遠なんだよ。女は死んじゃったけど、男はそれより大きなものを得たわけだよ。
I'm afraid I don't get it. Higuchi suddenly laughed.
なんだよ。お前童貞か？
No. However, I have no experience with love, and I highly doubt I will in the future either.
ふーん。じゃあよ。
He shifted his gaze. I followed along with him. He was staring at Saika-san's sleeping face. What? You continue to astound me. Higuchi continued speaking, a grin on his face.
この子さ、すぐに監督が終わるだろ。
In all likelihood, she seems to have no real obstacles to rehabilitation left. I will continue to watch her for a few days. If I don't see anything amiss, I'll send in a request to the Grand Court.
そしたら俺たちはようやく試験が終わって遊べるわけだ。
No, we most decidedly cannot. We will be acting as special high-class individuals afterward.
ミーナちゃんはいい子だよ。
What are you going on about now?
いい子だよ。多分。
Probably.
だってよくわからねえじゃん。
He looked around a dimly lit room.
部屋ってのはさ、だいたいそいつの趣味が出るじゃん。
I looked around a bit myself. The room had been kept in a very fine order indeed. However, there was nothing more to it than order. Well, to be fair, she has been forced to suppress her personality as part of her obligation. Higuchi nodded in agreement.
ミーナちゃんはあまり友達を作らないようにしているらしいな。
Well, if she becomes involved too deeply with someone, and they step into her private life, trouble could arise.
じゃあよ。
He grinned.
今一番ミーナちゃんのプライベートに踏み込んでいるのは、一緒に風呂に入って一緒に寝て起きて一緒に飯を食っている。
Meaning me then. But what of it? I looked down at the novel I had been reading once more. Though I had thought it idiotic, I had read it all the way to the end. The man in the story had borne his fangs against the country for the sake of a woman. But I sharpened my fangs merely for my own sake. It is. And with that, I'm going to end the episode here. I have no idea how long this game is. I absolutely have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I don't remember. But I definitely will finish it like soon, I feel. Like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a long game, right? Or a long story. At least for Hozuki's chapter. If you wish to like read the other after stories, it would probably like add in a couple more hours, but I feel like I only want to know Hozuki's story. I'll probably play Natsumi's story like by myself. But yeah, I'm gonna edit out the bat scenes. Probably, like, instead of the usual manga gamer blocking thing, I'm gonna use the anime typical style of those, you know, white blinding lasers. I guess. But yeah, I like the story so far. I don't remember, just like the first game, I don't remember much. But we do know how it's gonna end up, right? I mean, we did play the first game. But yeah, thank you all for watching the episode. I like the remixes, but I do wish there was a lot more soundtrack here. I do like the soundtrack though. Or like the specific BGM. I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.